So we got this video by Glaive Kyo, if I said that right. It's called The Mistranslation in Wuthering Waves is Getting Out of Hand. Now, obviously, as we've seen in the past, Wuthering Waves have had a lot of mistranslation issues. They have had a ton, whether it comes to Japanese, English, or whatever. They've had quite a bit. So I want to see what this one is. I haven't really seen anything about mistranslation recently. I'd say the most recent one was probably like something in the patch notes that they messed up, and that's about it. So I'm really interested to see what kind of things this person can point out. I've never even heard of this content creator, I'll be honest, but hopefully we can hear them out and hopefully they have some good opinions on this. And yeah, let's just get into it.
What is up, Gangela?
hello.
Welcome
Jesus.
back, and today we've got ourselves a little bit of a funny drama, or at least it's funny to me.
Funny?
I don't know, maybe you find it funny to you, maybe not. It turns out a lot of people are actually taking this really seriously. They're blowing it up into a really big deal, so let's just get
that is a very
into it.
that's the thing that's become a trend in the kind of Wuthering Waves community, is people making fun of Kuro Games and their typos and their mistranslations, because not all the time is it mistranslation, you know. They don't always mistranslate stuff. They literally just press like the wrong button on a keyboard and mess up, and it's the funniest thing ever. Sometimes it can be a big problem. For example, the weapon that happened with Jian. Jian's weapon got mistranslated, and it caused a lot of people to pull on the weapon thinking it was one thing when it was actually another, which kind of sucked. And I'm pretty sure they all got compensation. Yeah, also in the process of getting compensation, they got their emails leaked, so that kind of sucks. But again, it's quite funny to see that they're doing it again.
This down.
Glaive.
Alright, so this whole situation has been in the game for a while, ever since the whole 1.3 update. But here's where it gets interesting. Rexlet, shout out to him, and that needs a shout out actually, is the one that pointed this out and basically got it go viral. What we're talking about is a specific dialogue segment in the game. It has got everyone buzzing for one reason or another. So here's the context. In one of Shorekeeper's dialogue options under Thoughts 5, she says something that on the surface comes off as super sweet and wholesome, and you're thinking, oh, that's nice, that's so cute, right? But here's where it gets hilarious. Let me read it out for you real quick so you can follow along. She says, next time you journey to distant lands, could you bring me along? I don't want to watch from afar or hear secondhand about your adventures. I long to experience the unknown by your side. As your friend, please, will you give me the chance? Sounds cute.
What a Shorekeeper ass quote. Holy crap. That definitely sounds like something the Shorekeeper would say.
At first, doesn't it? But now, let me point out the huge flaw here. She ends up this adorable little speech by straight up friend zoning us.
Yeah, no, that's kind of interesting whenever she's talking about friends. But also, a lot of people were very confused in the Black Shore story. You know, we had the whole love thing where she kind of confesses to us, which a lot of people were very weirded out by, and I can see why they were, because again, it's like a kind of like self-insert kind of thing, which makes it kind of weird. But at the same time, lots of people were pointing out that it could be for like a friendly reason. So maybe that's the reason why they included friend. But again, it seems like there's been some mistranslation. So maybe they didn't actually mean friend and that they meant something else, which is kind of crazy.
Right. Pause it. God damn it.
Like, what? After all that talk about wanting to join us in our adventures, she pulls the as your friend card.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Really, Shorekeeper? I thought we had
crazy.
something special. I thought you were my wife.
Or the Shorekeeper fans, you know, all the ones in the story that actually took the I love you part as serious. And then they're like, what do you mean a friend? Like, I thought we were something more than that. Like, bro, like the really parasocial people whenever it comes to, you know, the Shorekeeper and stuff. I bet they were absolutely livid by seeing this.
My waifu, my one true love, and then you hit me with that? Absolutely brutal. I thought this was Wuthering Waves. I thought this was a gacha game. I thought everyone wants me, but this is just another rendition of Makeine, that new anime, bro. Now let's be real for a second. At first, this whole thing is pretty hilarious. That's pretty funny. You got this deep, heartfelt moment where Shorekeeper wants to travel the world with you, and then bam, friend zoned out of nowhere. It's like, what the heck just happened? But here's the thing. Apparently the Japanese and Chinese versions of this line are completely different. In those versions, she says something more along the lines of, I want to experience the unknown by your side, just like the main character and their companion in the story. It's still not exactly a marriage proposal, but let's be honest, it's a lot more than, hey, I just...
Guys, we still have a chance. We still have a chance, guys. Guys, we still got a chance with her. Doesn't say friend. We haven't been friend zoned anymore.
wanna be friends. Or, you know, something like, but we friends though. Like, at least in those versions, she's not downgrading the relationship to buddy status,
Yeah, true.
right? Now, most
She just
people
said,
are
like, a
taking
companion.
this
That could mean
as
literally
a
anything.
joke. I mean, it's probably meant to be, I think. I don't know. And hey, maybe that's the right approach. But here's where things get a little bit more serious. There's a whole group of players out there who are connecting this to a bigger problem in Wuthering Waves and with Kuro Games as a whole. What problem, you may ask? Well, it's the ongoing issues of mistranslations and localization errors. And now that I think about it, they're absolutely right. There have been some pretty major mistakes in the translation.
Yeah, Kuro Games, again, as I said, they're kind of the worst whenever it comes to mistranslation. And they even said in some of their stuff that they tried to improve like their mistranslation team and that they hired new people. And then we have information like this come out about the Shorekeeper with it being mistranslated. Brother, I don't know who they're hiring, but they're doing a pretty bad job at hiring some of these people because they keep messing up a ton of the translations. Like, bro, how do you keep messing up so much?
Especially in the different language versions of the game. One of the most infamous examples was with Jian's weapon.
Oh yeah,
one
this
of
is
the
what I was talking about.
5-star characters. The translation into Japanese was so wrong that it actually affected how people played the game. People actually pulled that
was
for
probably
Kocharo.
the worst kind of thing that they could have done. Now, obviously, you know, mistranslating the Shorekeeper saying that she's your friend or something like that isn't going to be the end of the world. Obviously, a lot of parasocials will be very angry by that, but it's not going to affect anybody monetarily. I think Jian's weapon was the worst case of it, just because it affected people because, you know, they tried to pull on it, they spent money on it, thinking it was one thing, but it was another, which, again, affects them like a whole lot more than some like random voice line in a game. So I definitely think, like, ever since that whole Japanese kind of Jian thing, the translation has gotten better, and the only mistranslation and typos we're seeing is in stuff that is a little bit less important and maybe does affect like how people play the game, but it doesn't really affect people's choices in how they pull or what they pull for a character. Unless, I mean, you could kind of say that her saying, you know, you're a friend or something could affect someone's pull choice. If she doesn't say she's your friend, then maybe someone's more likely to kind of like pull on her. But I think that's going into some real like mental gymnastics there on like, you know, how big of a deal is this, which I honestly don't think it is that big of a deal.
Even though it's not good for him. And don't even get me started on the Electro set. There's a 5-piece set in the game and the description for it is mistranslated as well, but you know, it just lacks a little bit of clarity. It's not quite
So we talked about mistranslation, we talked about typos, which again are two really big issues, but also we have the lack of clarity too. There's like parts that they miss out, obviously due to it being translated or something like that, where it's kind of important to the overall kit. Now, is it that important? No, it's like, you know, the kit is still the same, but at the end of the day, it gives you less information about what it actually does, which obviously a lot of people who do like to read into stuff like the electro damage set bonus and stuff like that, people are going to be more concerned about, you know, what are the kind of finer things that they can min-max kind of thing. And that's going to affect people much more. Now, obviously, me being a much more casual player, I don't really care, you know. The Electro set goes on the Electro Woman, and the Electro Woman does damage. But apart from that, you know, obviously I can see why people would be upset by something like this. And obviously we've had a lot of issues with mistranslation and typos. So yeah, people aren't going to be, you know, too pleased.
Mistranslated. I don't know. Like, so yeah, it's funny when Shorekeeper accidentally friend zones us, but this kind of thing can lead to a much bigger issue down the line if it's not addressed. Let's dig a little deeper into why this matters. On the surface, sure, a mistranslation is just, you know, a mistake. But for a game like Wuthering Waves, where so much of the appeal comes from its story, its characters, and the connections players feel with those characters, getting the dialogue and lore right is a huge deal. It's not.
Yeah, I can kind of agree that that is a big deal, and I definitely think the story is very important. But the thing is, this is just a voice line in the Shorekeeper's voices, you know? No one's going to be looking at the voices in the Shorekeeper unless you're like really obsessed with her. I mean, sometimes I look through some like kind of voice lines and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, most players won't. And they won't really like kind of comb through a lot of this stuff trying to find out if she's your friend or not. And it's not going to really make a massive difference, but I can kind of see what you're kind of getting at there, because again, it does kind of affect the story if she says she's your friend or she's not your friend, whatever, because it does kind of change your kind of status of relationship with whatever person that is. But Again, I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the lore at all, but if they keep making mistakes like this, maybe it could be. But just from like a small voice line that's kind of embedded into the character, I don't think it's the, biggest deal on earth.
Just about the gameplay mechanics, even though it's amazing, right? It's about immersion. And when that immersion is broken by something like a poorly translated line, it takes people out of the experience. Sometimes people want to play gacha games because they want to be delusional. They don't want to be friend-zoned in real life and in game. And then there's a long-term problem. If Kuro Games keep making these kind of errors, it's not just going to be funny anymore. It's actually going to become a reputation issue.
It definitely will become an issue in the future if it keeps happening. And I think we're already starting to see it now with people being like, typical Kuro mess up, typical Kuro, mistranslation or typo or whatever, because, they do have a reputation for it currently. But hopefully they do kind of address some of this stuff and actually don't do it in the future, because it's all good that they do fix it. I mean, Kuro are really great at getting feedback and kind of being like, okay, we need to change this right now. But at the same time, there is a certain point where they should just be doing it off rip and there shouldn't be any issues. Now, maybe, once every now and again is fine. It seems like it's happening every month. Yeah. It gets really bad and it's kind of, bad for Kuro Games' reputation, especially whenever it comes to translation.
People are going to start questioning whether the team really knows what they're doing when it comes to the localization, and when trust in the game starts to break down, that's where you start losing players. But here's where things take an interesting turn. This situation has actually sparked a bigger conversation in the community about whether Kuro Games need to put more resources into their localization efforts. It's not just about fixing the Shorekeeper friend zone moment, it's about making sure these kind of errors don't happen in the first place. And honestly, that's a good conversation to be having. The fact that people are willing to call this out and talk about it means that they care about the game. They want it to be better. And if this drama about Shorekeeper's dialogue leads to positive changes, then hey, maybe this whole thing was worth it. And just to be clear, even though in Thoughts 5, Shorekeepers was, friend-zoning us, in the ending of the story, you remember the most iconic line? Welcome home, my Shorekeeper. And then the Shorekeeper said, yes, thank you, my star. That was a completely different change from the JPNCN. In the JPNCN, they only said, Black Shores is our home, right? Shouldn't you wear a different expression when you're going home? And Shorekeeper replied, you're right, I'm home. Or like, Tadaima, right? Wakwe Laila.
Yeah, it is kind of weird how a lot of these kind of voice lines and stuff do get changed across regions, which gives it different kind of meaning. So I hope that they do kind of improve a lot of that stuff with the translation and just with the overall localization, because I don't think it's just translation, like them messing up on a certain word or something like that. I think it's kind of getting the narratives, set and kind of translating it properly so that they kind of have the same kind of story vibe, rather than like it's kind of similar but not exactly the same. Which again, I think it kind of, makes a lot of continuity issues for the story in general, because people will start to argue, oh, she meant welcome home. Oh, she meant this. Oh, she meant that. Which again, is going to start up a lot of wars in the community, which I'm sure Kuro Games want to avoid as much as possible.
Right? That's what she said. I'm home. I feel like the localization version, thank you, my star, was absolutely phenomenal. The most important, iconic, and most memorable line I have heard in Wuthering Waves history.
I just wish it was kind
maybe
of,
the localization is good in some ways. Who knows, right? So what is the takeaway here? Well, first of all, don't take everything too seriously, okay? Sometimes things like this are just funny, and it's okay to laugh about it. But on the flip side, there's a real conversation to be had about localization and how it impacts the overall experience of a game like Wuthering Waves. At the end of the day, Kuro Games needs to step up their game in this area, but we as a community can also have some fun with these moments.
Yeah, I think it is kind of fun to have a lot of these jokes and a lot of these kind of little things in the community that we can poke fun at. But I think it does get to an issue, with Kuro Games at some point where they're not making these changes early on, because as I said, they shouldn't be having to change this, so late down the line. Now, it's only been a couple of months since the game's come out, so it is fine that they do make a couple of these mistakes. But again, we can't just keep saying, oh, it's fine, they're new. Oh, it's fine, they're new. A year later down the line, because again, that's when it becomes a real issue. and that they actually need to start making changes so that they can actually catch this before it even goes out. Because again, that seems to be a lot of what Wuthering Waves is doing. They mess up, you know, they bring it out, people play it, people point out the issue, and then they go, oh, sorry, we've changed it, and then give out free rewards, which again is great. Honestly, it is great that we're getting free rewards for a lot of their issues and a lot of the stuff that they've messed up on, but I'm sure that they don't like handing out all these free rewards, you know, whenever they mess up. And I think that it's going to help them out, and it's also going to help us out whenever it comes to continuity issues, when it comes to, you know, explaining the lore, whenever it comes to explaining what weapons and what certain echo stuff does, which again, I think is great. And I really hope that, you know, Kuro Games does step up their overall translation and localization team, because it is a very important part, and it seems like this is going to be the butt of every joke whenever Wuthering Waves mess up. So yeah, maybe they'll fix it, maybe they won't. We'll just have to see in the future to see if any kind of other updates, you know, come out, and if, you know, they just kind of step it up in the, you know, stories.
After all, if we can't laugh at getting friend-zoned by a fictional character, what are we even doing? Anyway, that's all I've got for today.
Okay.
If you liked the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, that was definitely a very, very good video. It was very interesting to talk about a lot of the translation stuff. Obviously, I cover a lot of this on my main channel as well, to do with mistranslation and some localization issues, so it's good to get some further content on some other smaller issues that people might not have noticed. And yeah, it just definitely seems like Kuro Games do need to improve their overall localization stuff, as I said in the past, and I've been saying this since the game comes out. You know, they shouldn't be having to change it later on, and it seems like this is still going on. So we're gonna have to give them a little bit of time, obviously, to make some changes to their team and stuff like that. But if we're seeing this a year down the line, I definitely think we do need to hold them accountable for a lot of this stuff that happens. But it is, you know, nice that we do have these jokes and these kind of things in the community to, you know, make this a little bit more of a lighter situation. Definitely go follow Glaive Kyo, I think that's how you say his name. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Very, very cool video, and I'm very excited to see, you know, what else you have to bring out. I'm going to link it in the chat, and it'll be down the link down in the description if you guys want to watch it, if you're on the YouTube video. Yeah, I definitely recommend go check it out. Very cool video, and check out some of the other content too. Yeah, that's all I got, and yeah, that's a very cool video.